All right. So, welcome to the movies. This is an IMAX film. We're about to dive in, get started. We've got a phenomenal guest here. Let me make sure that everybody can see us. There we go. Um, all right, guys. Well, welcome. We've got a phenomenal guest speaker today. We've got New York Times and Wall Street Journal's best-selling author, Garrett Gunderson. Garrett's here to deliver tons of value, tons of impact. I've known him for, I think, 9 years now. So quite some time, which has been a blessing. Garrett's a stud, world-class, type of guy, and very successful and very knowledgeable. So he's here to deliver a lot of value, a lot of impact to you today. So Garrett, do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself real quick, and then we can dive right in?
Yeah, man. 1998, I started in finance because I won $5,000 as a young entrepreneur of the year when I was a teenager. Wanted to invest the money, didn't know what that meant. And it's been an interesting ride since, because what I thought I knew about money early on is not what I know now. And I learned some from making mistakes in the School of Hard Knocks, and I learned others by just interviewing some of the best minds, and then just having a passion for the topic, really, and kind of a mind that I can remember the things in this world of money and finance better than I could learn it in any other topic. So I've been helping entrepreneurs keep a lot more of what they make without having to cut back, plug financial leaks, help them improve their quality of life, help them create a business they don't. I mean, I know you buy businesses. I want them to create a business they don't want to sell, which puts them in a really powerful place, right? Because they are exhausted and tired and overwhelmed. And so getting their financial house in order is a big part of that.
Big time. Yeah, big time. Yeah, what were some of the biggest lessons from some of the hard knocks you experienced in your journey?
I kind of believed in the early days, that wealth was like a function of being a miser. I just didn't know any better. My family put cash in coffee cans and buried it in the cellar. And I just thought, if I could just never spend money, I could be a millionaire. But that's a slow, tedious way to get there. We know how much erosion there is against savings accounts. We know that the thought of just setting money aside and locking it away for a long time without cash flow, the thought of just cutting every single expense and not enjoying life, that doesn't lead to wealth, because it's not about investing in yourself. It's not about buying back your time. It's not about protecting your energy. And ultimately, it's a slow, dangerous way to get there. So that was the first. And then I saw a family office for really, really wealthy people. And I'm like, wait, they're just focused on saving tax and how to own things properly. So it's, own nothing, control everything. And they're doing real due diligence, and everything's cohesive and comprehensive and coordinated. And they're focused on the things that they know a lot about. I remember speaking at a family office event where there were 20 billionaires in 2021. And one of them owned a boatload of gas stations with a brand that you would know, and it was they're just kept, going through with their methodology of having bigger buildings, nicer bathrooms, bigger selection. It was they're just crushing it. It was that was something that they focused the primary amount of their time on. And it was they just got really good at that. They weren't overly diversified. They weren't diversified. They weren't into things they didn't understand. And I was man, they had a really good financial team. So I kind of discovered Investor DNA. Investor DNA is knowing your values and your competencies and knowing what drives you, and then putting your focus there to drive the most cash flow, and then protecting it instead of using protection methods of diversifying early, which slows the growth, which gets you spread too thin. You focus and then you diversify to preserve, not to grow. And so that was a fundamental difference that I didn't really understand early in my career that I see now. And also at that event, people were spending millions of dollars on their tax team to save them hundreds of millions of dollars. So they didn't care what it cost, because it was still 10 cents on the dollar for them.
Yep.
And they were very, very savvy when it came to tax. And so I really dedicated my life to how can entrepreneurs save tax legally, ethically, down the fair way, without getting into any trouble, not having to worry about an audit. But there's thousands of pages of what they can do, but most of them don't know, because they're either reactive, or they don't have the right team, or they outgrow their accounting firm, or whatever it might be. And so it's man, when you find that money, it goes right to the bottom line, and it can be reinvested in their business, or improve their quality of life, or even buy a cash flowing asset. Because I believed early on is you should just accumulate your way to wealth, lock your money away till 59.5 and defer your taxes. Well, deferral is different than savings. Not having cash flow along the way is a huge cost, because if you have recurring revenue from assets to cover your expenses, then every active dollar can buy more assets. That's a 10 times advantage versus the person just trying to save 10% of their money. Right. So it's just, it's a radically different view that is so much more logical, which is so much more sustainable, which is so much more safe. But there's a lot of people that just don't know about it.
Yeah, and you miss lots of opportunities when you have that approach. But it sounds like you went through a lot of growth. You said you worked at or you consulted with that family office. Is that right?
Well, they just had me come speak to these 20 offices
Yep.
at an
Okay.
event.
Oh wow.
So
Nice. That's
I
a big
haven't really
opportunity.
worked too closely with family offices because it's a lot of work, and I just refer that business out. I like to help the people on the way up.
You've graduated.
I like to help the people that are like first generation wealth, entrepreneurs that are making money, but they're not ultra high net worth. Ultra high net
Yep.
worth just requires a massive amount of time and it's not as fun. There's so
Yep.
many moving pieces, so many people. Like you got CFOs that are signing off on everything. And
Yep.
there's just so many simple yet profound things I could do for someone that's in the growth mode. That's just, they've never had a big financial team. They don't have
Yep.
the wherewithal. It's like they're so much more coachable. And I want to help hundreds of thousands, if not millions, not tens of people. I mean,
Yep.
I know most
Yep.
financial people, they're looking for the
Deeper.
richest person and managing all their assets. But once that happens, you can only have a couple clients and do it effectively.
Yeah, and then you're also at risk, because all your, money, all your cash flow is with like maybe 60% or so of your clientele, which is a risky
Right.
position to be in as a business owner. So it makes sense. But
And
yeah,
there's so many people trying to talk to them. There's so many people vying for that money.
yeah,
Right. I work with so many service-based professionals, so many people that even have like, small businesses making $500,000 a year of revenue, not even take home. And I can save them a boatload of tax. I could help them restructure loans to keep more of what they make. I can help them reduce fees with their investments so they can get further with that, or redesign their insurance so they transfer risk. And it's like 10% of their income boost just with that. And now we can start building the infrastructure. I don't work with like startups, the people that sleep at their office all the time and they haven't ever been in revenue. Like that's not who I work with. I work with the people that are they're cash flowing businesses, but again, the ones on the way up. Now, if someone's like ultra high net worth, I do twice a month. I do these 1-day consultations and I'll help them build out their legacy plan, but then I'll build them their team, but I'm not doing the follow-up afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice, man. Nice. Sounds good. Sounds good. So tell us about, some of the common, you could say, landmines that you've noticed. Some of the people that you've worked with seem to come across fairly consistently. That the general public that's seeing this, and we're
Yeah.
live streaming to like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. What are some of the common landmines that most people need to avoid if they want to be able to, protect their earnings and grow more from their
First, they have to
earnings?
pay themselves. I see tons of business owners that are underpaying themselves, and then it gets eaten away by the business. Like the business has an insatiable appetite.
Yep.
The second thing is they go cheap where they shouldn't, meaning they don't hire the best people because they can save money with people that aren't quite as good,
You get what
and
you pay for.
then it costs them in a big way.
Right.
So then they skip the steps and they go right to trying to build a balance sheet. They go right to try to build a retirement plan before they've invested in their people and their own in knowledge and their own financial IQ, or they try to do things themselves where a team could be super helpful. And I just see like 93, 98%, depending on the year, are overpaying taxes. They're just tipping the government because they say they don't have the time or they just don't want to switch from their accountant. And it's like, man, there's so much opportunity there. And then I just see them lock their money away. They have money in a retirement plan that isn't creating cash flow. They don't know how it's going to work, when it's going to work, what the exit strategy is, if they're actually middle or tax bracket. And so ultimately, they just have a lot of like taking really good money that can help them grow their life and their business and putting it into places they don't control or understand. And that risk is really painful for them. So if they would instead focus on cash flow and plug financial leaks to keep more of what they make, so they're financially independent, and instead of thinking about retirement as a 30-year proposition, think about financial independence in 10 years or less. And then when you're there, you get a swing for the fences in your vision in your business, and just you get to delegate more things, do less of what you hate, do more of what you love. And to me, that's the dream. The dream isn't sell and do nothing. Like take the trips along the way, build a business that can operate without you for a period of time so that you can really have this amazing life. But I think a lot of them have exposure with their finances. They don't have enough cash flow with their finances. And mentally, they're not in enough abundance to think about how to part with their money in a way that would grow it more in the long term, because they'd be investing in infrastructure and systems and people.
Too fearful, just too much scarcity in their mindset. 100%. Yeah, and I love your approach too.
I've been there.
Oh, go ahead.
That's how I started. Right. That's what I learned
Well, we've all
initially. I
been
had to
there,
overcome that.
Yeah, it's all part of growth. We all encounter it. We all go through that. So it's something I even coach some people on too in my circle. Because over the last 12, almost 13 years now, I've been a business owner, and so I've been around people like you, and I've grown personally myself, and I've learned a lot in the process, and so I'm trying to pass that on. Pass it on to others that need that too. This way they can, see more success for themselves too.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Well, here, I'm gonna, guys. This is for you guys. So this is to the audience here, and I want you guys to really chime in with questions and questions. Let's maximize this opportunity. This is for you. This is to give you lots of value, lots of impact today. So we've got some questions coming in. So I'm going to highlight a few of these questions as they come in. And I see one person chiming in a lot. Let's get more than just one person chiming in. Not that I don't appreciate it, but let's definitely get a lot of people engaging here and asking lots of questions. So the first question here is, do you work with people just getting into e-commerce that don't have a cash flowing business yet?
We have one platform that we work with them on. It's called X1 Wealth Labs, and it's an AI tool that they can look at, analyze everything in their finances, their taxes, their estate plans, their investments, and it'll give them priorities and suggestions and put the power in their hands. And then I teach with the founder, Matt Silverstein, once a month for that group. So they can do hot seats, they can ask questions. But yeah, if you go to x1wealth.com, that's the best way to get into that. And so that really helps when you're pre-revenue or you don't have a lot of cash flow. So you have like a guide so you can see what we're talking about. And it's like using artificial intelligence to give you the access that you'd normally have with the family office, but in a way that's way more affordable.
Nice. That's
Yep.
awesome. It's something anybody can use, it sounds like. Like how
Yep.
much is it?
It's $1,000 for the year, I think, or
Oh,
$100
yeah.
a month. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
So
Yeah. That's very cost effective. Awesome.
definitely.
Sounds good. And then what's and I know you kind of went over a bit on what the impact is when people go through it, they use it, and it gives them that feedback. What would you say is like the before and after effects of using that people will experience?
Like one of the things you could do is you go through the financial health assessment on it,
Okay.
right? So if you just went to garrettgunderson.com/one question, the number one not spelled out, but garrettgunderson.com/one question, they'll take you to this financial health assessment, which will say where you set, where you not set, and where's your financial blind spots. And then you'll go through safety and security with that, then through money and investing, and then it'll actually help you prioritize it with the report that's custom to you, and then give you even chat GPT prompts to help support you with the implementation of it. And that I'm just gifting. Now, for someone that's in a revenue structure, and then it's probably going to require more of a one-on-one conversation, which they could get that in a discovery session. But you kind of get a feel for what it is when you go through that. Depending on how you answer, it'll lead you down the road that's right for you.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Here's a good question. How did you? I guess this is for you.
Okay.
How did you overcome the scarcity mindset?
I think the first moment it helped was I had won this little award because I was selling life insurance way back in the day with MDRT, $1 Million Roundtable. It's like a life insurance industry thing. And I'm like feeling really proud of myself. And I talked to this woman, Nancy, in the hallway, and she was working with Robert Kiyosaki on his insurance. So I was like impressed because I'd read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was in my early 20s. And she's like, I can't wait till you get to the next level called top of the table. And then you're going to see how they view money. I'm like, what do you mean how they view money? Well, it's different. So I said, well, can we have a conversation? Can you help me? And she's like, yeah. So she started asking me questions, and I'm answering like all through frugality, savings, miserly, cutting back, reducing, eliminating. And she just goes, I wonder what it's like living in the financial prison you built for your wife. And I was like, oh, wait, I'm kind of an a-hole. And so that just clicked. And so I called my wife. I'm like, we're living in this crappy apartment, making a good 6-figure income. I'm like, we could definitely have gotten a house by now, babe. I'm sorry. I've just been so miserly. I thought it was to protect the family, but I really see it's like preventing us from being more prosperous. And she forgave me. I start crying. People are let out of the session thinking I'm crying because I'm excited about my award, but I was like just having this epiphany. So at that moment, I started to feel really comfortable investing in myself. So at that same event, I signed up for 2 mentors, strategic coach, right? And with Dan Sullivan. And then I signed up with this guy, Steve D'Annunzio, because now I had permission the next day, like, hey, I'm the asset. I'm going to invest in me. And the work that I did with them were really instrumental in helping me overcome scarcity. Now, when I have bouts of scarcity, because it's not like I'm enlightened and just float around, just because I have the long hair doesn't mean that I, am a sage or a guru or something like that. When I have those bouts of scarcity, I really just do one of two things. Number one, I call someone that I know that I can add value to their life. And I call and add value to their life so that I feel good and they can acknowledge that value. Or two, I call a peer or a mentor and tell them I'm having a bout with scarcity so they can ask me the questions I don't ask myself when I'm feeling inside some type of rut or some, emotional response or some, whatever it might be. And it helps me get through. Now, I also write. And when I wake up in the morning, if I'm feeling those emotions, like, what do I need to forgive? What do I need to accept? What do I need to love? Like, what's the truth of the matter? I just take time to write. And then I write about what's the truth of the matter. And I process the emotion. And then now I just still have, people that I talk to every other week that help me stay aligned and help me to stay kind of above the scarcity mindset. And so part of it's practical application, just getting out there and doing the work. Some of it's writing, some of it's the people I talk to, and some of it's just being honest about the situation so I can move through it. Because if you're not honest, that being pretend will actually hold you back. And ultimately, all progress begins with that honesty. And so if you can have the safe space to share it, it won't hold you captive anymore. So it's progress over perfection. Done is better than perfect. It takes some time, but who you got your time with? Who are you talking to? Are you talking about prosperity? Are they uplifting? Are they want to support you? Do they inspire you? Do they positively challenge you? Or are they just people that talk politics all day and talk about the woes of the world with no solutions other than blaming someone for doing it wrong? So
Right.
you just got to be in the game. That's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be around
Mm-hmm.
people that are abundant because you start to think differently and see differently. And then when I have those thoughts, I just go, that's an interesting observation. Thanks. And I just kind of let it pass. And then I go, what's the highest action I could take right now? What's the truth of, I'm just gotten better at training my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. I could relate to a lot of that too. Another question came in here. How do you feel about hiring out of the country versus in the country?
I know people that do extraordinarily well hiring out of the country. Look, one of my sales guys lives in New Zealand, even though he's born in America, and he's phenomenal. Everyone else on my team is pretty much in the country, but I have clients that have a lot of virtual assistants and,
Mm-hmm.
technology people out of the country. I think that's a personal preference. And I do think there's a way to make it more inexpensive to go out of the country. But my thought is I'd rather hire in the country and use AI to make them twice as valuable than hire cheap out of the country. That's kind of my philosophy, but I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's how everybody else should do. That's just how I operate.
Yeah, there's lots of right answers, quote unquote.
I like
Lots of
in-person
different
retreats,
philosophies.
man. We're getting together, all our coaches in December. We're getting together our entire team in February.
Nice.
I want to get everybody in person. I don't like being in Zoom all the time. It's fine some of the time, but I like the in-person experience where we can have some activities, we can do some fun things, we can really get to know each other.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a
No, I know. You
preference.
build real culture that way, real connection, and people
Yeah.
get invested into the mission that way, which is really
But I have
nice.
some
Yeah.
friends that have a VA, program, and they help hire. And I think I might hire one for my assistant just because we're so busy right now. And I
Yeah.
think that would be out of the country, which I think is perfectly fine.
Yeah. Which company are you going to use?
There's a guy, Alan Miner and Mark Mao, that are friends of mine
Okay.
that have a company where it's like I don't even know what it's called, but I just referred one of my clients to them, and I'm like, yeah, I think we're going to use them.
Yeah. Gotcha. I know there's several out there: Upwork, Free Up, Online
Yeah,
Jobs.ph, etc. Chris Ducker has a company too. I can't remember the name of the company, but he's published, his book Virtual Freedom, which goes over how to hire a VA and set up a VA to maximize the impact it can have on your
yeah.
business. I read that book a long time ago now. So I'm going to keep the questions coming. So another question here is, how would you advise finding and signing up for or signing up with a mentor?
Um, I'm out. I've just always called my friends. Who you working with? What are you doing? Like, what's working for you? I speak at a lot of events, so I just get to see like, oh, this would be a great person that's running this event. Like my last mentor, really good close friend that I've known for probably a decade, and I just watched his trajectory. I was like, hey Dan, I'm going to hire you to work with me personally. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And because when I pay attention, when I pay money, I don't want to just expect my friends to do anything for free, because you get way more out of it. But I always just get recommendations. I'm not like a research online guy. I'm a call my friends that I respect and trust and go, hey, if you were doing this, who would you hire? Like right now, I'm always looking for like, how do I get better at YouTube? Like I just have friends that are like, hey, I'll get on with you. Like, and because I'm always asking people like, oh, here's who you should talk to. And some of them I've hired. Like when Dan's like, oh, you should listen to this Brendan Kane book. I hired his firm to help me with some analysis. Like, so it's a referral game for me on that.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. Sounds good. And plus, I mean, when you have the network you have, I mean, there's plenty of gold out there. You just have to, ask around.
Yeah.
Quick access there. Um, and then, so here's another question. What are the top 3 books you would recommend to someone shifting into the e-commerce field? And knowing this guy, he's coming from a car sales background, so completely, different direction. He's early in his journey, but he's hungry and he's driven.
Well, what books would you recommend, man? Like
He's
like,
asked me this question before. I think he just wants your
I
feedback
feel
too.
like I haven't read many e-commerce books.
Yeah.
I know, like I think Ryan Moran wrote one. If I'm not mistaken.
Yep, I've got it. I think over there too. But yeah, I've already told him a few recommendations. He's asked this in our private community.
I'd say Zigzag Principle is really good by Rich Christensen.
That's
for anyone that's going into
that
any business that you're starting out.
Nice.
He's great, personal friend. Maybe I'm mentioning it because he mentions me in the book, and I have too big of an ego to think beyond that. But no, it is a great book. So that would be good. And then Bootstrap Business by the same author. I read that cover to cover, and I don't read a lot. So for me to sit and read it, I just thought it was so good for someone who's just starting out. And he's sold like 19 e-commerce businesses, or I don't know how many of the 19 he sold were e-commerce, but most of them were.
Nice. Yeah, those are some really good recommendations. Yeah, I've said e-commerce evolved is number one, like the de facto e-commerce book to read, just because it covers everything A to Z, soup to nuts, for someone that really wants to learn and dive into everything that has to do with e-com, especially on the marketing and sales side. So I'll mention that one again. Okay, so here's a very unique question, and you'll probably have to ask me a lot of questions for you to answer this question. But this is from one of our shareholders. So he says, "What is your best advice for me, Josh?" He's referencing on his path moving forward with ARM5.
So you said you might have to give me some more context, right?
Yeah, I'll give you. Okay, I'll just dive in and just give you some context. Yeah. So where we're at right now is, we're right now acquiring 2 to 3 more companies by the end of the year. It'll get us to 10 million top line revenue, and we're still going to be profitable as well. We're also working on building out an agentic AI software for e-com. It's probably going to launch January at this point. And the goal is to create a very valuable e-commerce aggregator in the public eye, in the public markets, take it public, get it on the NASDAQ by July 1st next year. And and because we're investing into agentic AI and we're folding that in as a moat, play to be able to create more differentiation, and also an e-com ecosystem that could bring in e-com companies into our ecosystem. The valuations that I've researched put us somewhere in between 8x to 20x of our revenue. So that's kind of where we're at and where we're going. So yeah, I mean, what do you think about the path that we're on right now?
I mean, you explained it pretty damn well. I mean, that's like, I didn't know that you're going to go and take it public. Like, so the only, just as you and I talking, we got people watching, but like being small and going public, how do you prevent from being sold short? That's my only, like, everything sounds great. That's my only concern.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if that's a good question. But for us and the nature of our business, it solves one of the biggest challenges, one of the biggest problems, which is financing and acquiring companies. Because we've been raising capital, which we've had success with, but to raise the amount of capital to buy a bigger, better business, because the bigger the business, the better the business, the lower risk the business is. It's very hard to do with the current, banks and financial application processes attached. And it takes a while, to do that. Because at one point we were attacking that, trying to acquire companies, going to banks, going through lending processes, and it was a pain in the ass. And it just made things tough as we were also raising capital to be able to meet those requirements with those acquisitions we were trying to finance. And that's kind of like what led us to deciding that if we're going to accomplish our goal of becoming a much bigger e-commerce aggregator that really makes an impact on our shareholders first and foremost and us, we have to take advantage of institutional capital in the capital markets. It's the best way for us to be able to do the model we're doing, because we don't want to be just like a small potatoes private company that maybe does, I don't know, 50 to 100 million a year. It sounds nice, but we want to become like a 500 million market cap to a billion market cap ecom aggregator, similar to like Thrashio, and have more success than even what they did, in the public markets a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
cool.
It's like, I've never taken a company public. I don't work with a lot of, I don't work with people that have taken a company public. So like, I've only had that one issue that I was mentioning, just so I could at least say, hey, here's the one thing I've seen with, some really close friends of mine that got acquired by a public company that was kind of small.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's about it.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. All right. Yeah. Sounds good. So let's see. Yeah, and maybe you could unpack what you said a second ago. And this is from the chat. It's based on a question that someone just presented. But I know you said selling short. Like, what do you mean by selling short? What's your thought process there?
So there's naked short selling that happens sometimes where you've got these companies that go, all right, yeah, let's just look at the small company and we're going to start naked selling short. We're going to push their price down. We're going to buy options that push down, right? So call as if you think it's going to go long and up, but push is down. And so when you put a put, then basically that naked call that naked put option could really sell that short where there's lack of liquidity. It pushes the price down over and over because of a bigger player. So I don't like naked short selling. I think it should be outlawed, but it's part of the the system. So
part of the game.
Yeah, part of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yep. Yeah, that definitely could happen. Yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
All right. So, go ahead.
Just one thing. Like not that it would happen or anything. It's just like you've thought through so many things. You built so many things. You're buying so many things. It's like,
yeah.
Someone might be like, "Ooh, I love this. Let's see what we can do."
Yeah. Yeah. No, I could see what you're talking about. You could have like a big investment player that can really invest into a lot of stocks. Like you said, put a put option on a stock purchase to drive the value of our stock down. That's
exactly
definitely stuff outside of our control that could happen.
And sometimes it's hard to see where that's coming from or how much liquidity they have. I mean, you can see they've done this with other companies.
Right. Yep, for sure. So what do you see right now as the current investing trends, based on, your work that you're doing right now?
I mean, a lot of people are highly liquid right now because they're looking for opportunity and, they're very concerned about what's happening. They're thinking with interest rates going down, that could change things. I mean, I just spoke to a bunch of people in real estate, they're commercial real estate. They're really having a hard time right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that are concerned. Look, people are always concerned about a bubble, always concerned. But there seems like a heightened concern right now, whether it's an AI bubble because, we've got, just that's moved pretty quick, or just the stock market because of the high inflation has been pushed up really heavily. So, some of those are concerns. I don't have any money in the stock market. I'm not a stock market guy. I don't sell the stock market. I'm not licensed for it anymore. I know that I can get guaranteed returns by saving people tax, restructuring their loans and saving them interest, finding where there's hidden fees or commissions inside of investments that create drag, or redesigning insurance. Like, I'm looking for the things that nobody else is paying attention to and putting thousands of dollars back into people's lives every month, rather than taking risk on something that I don't know whether it's going to pan out or not. I'm here to say it's either going to be business, real estate, or intellectual property that drives most cash flow and drives most wealth. And entrepreneurs, basically, if you're worth $5 million or more, there's a 91% chance you're an entrepreneur. That's the future, is small business. When people go, I don't really know what to do, they just put money in an index fund, and that's just giving it to big business. And there's, you pretty much know what you're going to get long term. It's pretty predictable. But there's a lot more upside and downside to small business. So, that's something that you've seen. That's a trend that you've run with, is because a small company that has high scalability with e-commerce can grow massively, where a big business has a harder time to grow.
Yeah, for sure. For many different reasons too. You've got AI threatening a lot of classic brick and mortar businesses. You have more expensive overhead. You have definitely more concerns there. Plus, you do have to depend on domestic staff versus international staff, which is more costly. And the limitations in scalability. E-com is king when it comes to that.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely. Awesome. Okay. And then, if someone watching this, wants to work with you, what are some ways that they can reach out to you? And besides, the what you just introduced us to earlier, which I put the address in the chat, x1wealth.com. What are some other ways people can, reach out to you and, work with you intimately to be able to, get the full breadth of the Garrett Gunderson impact?
GarrettGunderson.com / one question is the best way to because that'll lead you to work with us. Or you could DM me on Instagram if this tax stuff, you're like, well, what are you talking about? Tax Navigator. DM me at Garrett B. Gunderson. We'll hook you up with the Tax Navigator. And that's a checklist so you can see exactly whether you could save tax or where you are not saving it. And that's going to be a great way. Or you can just go to YouTube, man. I'm putting out videos every week. Nice. It really helps out. So it's just Garrett.live in your internet browser, or Garrett Gunderson TV at YouTube. And I think that's the best way to get to know us. And we can just add value first. And, you can just DM us in Instagram. We can communicate with you and see if we can help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, that sounds good. Awesome. Well, I just shared that link, guys, in the chat, Garrett.live. So feel free to check that out. So it sounds like you're really doubling down on producing YouTube content, organic content.
They say, Josh, they say that the number one thing that builds trust is long form organic on YouTube. YouTube has surpassed Netflix. It's surpassed Hulu and Disney. It surpassed all other platforms for TV, and it lets people get to know you a lot better. And we just crossed 100,000 subscribers yesterday, and we're putting out long form every week. We're putting out shorts every day, just to serve and put the content out there. And if people want more help because they have more money than they have time, then they can just hire us directly. If they have more time than money, they can just keep watching that and piece it together over time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And right now too, with AEO or GEO, however there's two different acronyms that mean the same thing basically. YouTube is up there when it comes to ranking you in ChatGPT and other generative AIs.
And it's just people or I've heard organic traffic is down by 60% to websites. And that's because people aren't using Google. They're going to ChatGPT. Right. I'm one of them. I just ask everything in GPT, I don't go to Google anymore.
Yep. I'm in the same boat for sure, man.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, I know that you have a flight coming up, so I want to be respectful of your time and
it wouldn't have been an issue, but we have all these different things going on. We booked this, and I was like, cool, I'm good. I'll be good for my flight. And then I'm like, hey, they might not be flying if you might need to switch flights. I'm like, well, I better get to the airport a little bit early then. I don't know. I'm usually cruising in last one on the flight,
Yeah, no, I know. You know that I used to be an air traffic controller.
Dude, is it as stressful as they say?
Well, I never sat down in a tower or in front of a radar screen. So there's different positions in air traffic control. There's sitting in front of a radar screen. There's being in a tower, looking out at the skyline, seeing the traffic, and communicating with all the planes. So there's different forms of air traffic control. We simulated environments that were very busy. Like a radar screen with all these different blips that I had to guide in a very organized pattern. But I never actually, and that was stressful because they're stress testing you before they pass you to get the FAA certification, so that was very, very stressful. Like going into that was called approach. Going into that part of the schooling, there was buzz that a lot of people fail, and that flunks people out. And you can only get a C 3 times. Like the third time, you're kicked out. So you only have 2 times that you can get a C on a written test or a practice test. And so it was a little high stress, but it was fun. I mean, honestly, I've said this for a long, long time. Air traffic control to me felt like a big video game.
Yeah. Well, I hope that there's air traffic controllers there tonight, bro. And thanks for having me on. And good to see you, man.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
too.
and
Yeah,
it
thanks
sounds
for
amazing. What
coming on,
you've
man.
built, I mean, it's crazy to think what you're building and what you've done, and where you're going with this is pretty. It's a lot, dude. So
Yeah,
the undertaking that you've chosen, it's impressive that you've done that amount of work, dude, and that you're doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Yeah, big vision and big goals, and just working hard towards it every day.
Yeah, e-commerce is very scalable. I mean,
Yep.
when done right. So there's a lot of upside, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Well, thank you so much,
Thanks,
man.
bro.
And I'll be in touch, and good
All
luck
right,
with your flight and your upcoming trip.
thanks, man. Later.
Okay. All right. Bye.